order of business. First, I want to say thanks for all the feedback we got on the last staff meeting. This one is going to be drastically different because we have a drastically different agenda, but moving forward will be, those are very informative. So thanks for being part of the process. Second, it feels like, I'm looking around, I think this is true. We have 2 new people here who have never been to a staff meeting before. So I want to welcome Katie, who is now officially not the newest employee, and Mia, who is officially now the newest employee of the Maritime Center. Welcome, welcome. And with that, so today it was really about being focused on this new ClickUp software, ClickUp, that we're going to be using to manage workflow and things. And it's their first. Is this Chris's first meeting? No, it's not. This is Chris. You've been here before, right?
Yeah, second staff meeting.
Yeah, you're like part of the furniture.
Old hat.
Right, great. Where was I? Workflow stuff. Anyway, Hallie's going to get us all smart starting now, and then we're going to do another one here in a couple weeks, and we're all going to start moving forward into the new horizon of this new organization. So with that, everyone, welcome Ms. Hallie Glenn.
Hi, everyone. So we actually are going to have another staff meeting on Thursday for the second part of this training. Not in a couple, well, there probably will be another one in a few weeks. But anyways, we'll see you all again on Thursday. So thank you for being here. I know this is a big moment for us, kind of moving into this next phase of how we work together as a team. So really quick, I'm just going to review kind of what we're going to talk about today, and then I'll tell you what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So essentially today, first and foremost, we're going to be looking at, I'll review kind of why are we doing this? Why now? How is this going to be helpful for us? We're going to look, the most of today's meeting is going to be looking at the technical side of ClickUp, like how it's set up, how it's structured, kind of just the general how to use ClickUp. And then I'll also talk about, using ClickUp with Google, and some other little helpful tips for how you can manage your work in ClickUp. Hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end, though that said, if you have a question in the middle, you can definitely speak up. I may or may not answer you right in the moment. Sorry, I'm realizing half my face is in shadow. And we'll talk about next steps at the end of this meeting. And then on Thursday, when we come back together Thursday morning, that will be when we talk more about how we use ClickUp as a team at the Maritime Center, and how you as an individual can use ClickUp to manage your work. So today is going to be a little bit more just on the technical side, and then we'll really get into some like real world examples on Thursday. So just know that. I'm sure you're all going to have questions that come up today that are going to be answered on Thursday. And then also, I just wanted to thank you for all filling out that our need to know Jamboard. And thank you, Robin, for the great tip for getting that going. That was a really helpful way to make sure that I, answer the questions they all have and make sure we're all prepared. Make sure we're, all prepared to move forward with this. Jake, did you want to say anything else?
Just one thing, if we could all just center a little bit. I know that we're doing a lot of things. We're doing a lot of things fast. There's a lot of change. If your work days are like mine, you're probably trying to multitask as much as possible. Not saying that any of us have multitasked on Zoom meetings before. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if there was ever a Zoom meeting to not multitask on, it would be this one. So I would encourage you all to turn your phone over, put it on airplane mode. Everyone let's just do that right now. Let's pretend this is a real meeting. Let's pretend this is a real meeting. We're all in person. We're putting our phone on airplane mode. Remember that? Yes, that was fun. So mine's on airplane mode. The other thing, let's just close all the other windows on our screens. Let's say goodbye to our email for a little bit. I'm not saying mine was open. I'm not. But if it was, it's closed now for sure. So I'm just asking everyone to be here for this because I assume there are going to be a lot of questions anyway. And if there are going to be a lot of questions, if we're all paying attention, imagine how many questions there would be if we were trying to do 2 things at once. So thank you all for being here. Center on in and let's buckle in for the next hour and a half. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, so before I jump in, I also wanted to tell everyone that throughout this ClickUp onboarding process, we have a group of power users at the Maritime Center, folks who have pretty much offered, if not me asking them to do it, volunteered to be ClickUp experts, so to speak, that you can reach out to with your questions. And so there's 6 of us total, and each of you will be assigned to one of the power users. And we'll go over that probably more on Thursday. But just know that there are people here to answer the questions that you have as you start using ClickUp. And there's also extensive online documentation. So just know that there are these support channels for you as you dive in. Okay, so without further ado, I'll start going. So essentially, why are we using ClickUp and why now? I see us using project management software and using ClickUp for 3 basic purposes. The first one is, and I think probably the most important one, is track cross-department projects in one place so that we work better together as a team. Number 2, track your own work and your department's work in one place. And then number 3 is kind of the outcome of the first 2, is that we can then create a clear picture of how the work across the organization overlaps and intersects so that we can plan better for the future. We can add new things and do that well and really plan for what we're trying to accomplish. So as you can see, there was a theme there that was getting all of the work that we do in one place. There have been a couple of surveys that we've sent out over the years about kind of what are your stucks when you try to get your work done at the Maritime Center. And something that always came up was that we all are tracking our work in multiple places. We have notebooks, we have some people were using project management software, we have spreadsheets, we have documents. So we're trying to just consolidate all of that just to make your lives easier. So that's the why of ClickUp. And the other thing I wanted to talk about before we really look at ClickUp is that ClickUp, and again, I'm going to talk about this more on Thursday, but to set us all or hopefully set our minds at ease, we are using ClickUp in conjunction with our existing project and process management process that we've come up with. Y'all can remember there's the process map with the vetting at the beginning, and then there's the work plan meetings, and then there's the check-ins and that sort of thing. So I will take this moment to share my screen. And again, I will dive into this a little bit more on Thursday and really what this looks like for us. But here's the process map that hopefully you all are somewhat familiar with, probably except for maybe Katie and Mia. But anyways, I've highlighted these 2 purple boxes are where ClickUp is replacing what was there before, which was the work plan document. So we'll still have our vetting process. We'll still, do an info brief, and then we have our work plan meeting, and we put in all of the work into ClickUp. And so the idea here is that no one is being assigned tasks that they don't have input on. So people aren't, especially you're not assigning tasks to people in other departments without their input. Anyway, so we'll get into what that looks like more on Thursday, but just be at ease that it's not that you're going to suddenly lose authority over the work that you're doing and when you're doing it. So we're staying human here. So don't worry about that. And let's see. Also to just clarify with ClickUp and the other applications that we already use, ClickUp makes a bold claim that they replace all apps. We are not going to use ClickUp to replace the Google Suite. So we'll still use spreadsheets. We will still use Google Docs and email and that sort of thing. But the difference now is that we will use ClickUp for anything that's task tracking. That said, there's some other ways that you can use ClickUp that might help your workflow. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit more later and more on Thursday. And then also, we're still going to use Notion as our staff wiki. So that kind of resource for where you can go to ask random questions and hopefully have them answered, and information about staff and their hours and that sort of thing. So anything that's that staff intranet, we will still use Notion for that. But if you were using Notion to manage your own workflow or any of the work in your department and any of the tasks that you are working on, that's what is going to move over into ClickUp. Okay, so that's my intro to ClickUp. And then now let's actually look at it. So this is ClickUp. And let me minimize my screen a little bit. So also I'll say, I'm not looking at the chat. So if someone just speak up, if you have a question or need to interrupt me for anything, because I'm not going to be looking there.
Hey, Hallie,
Yeah.
is there any way, can you make that bigger? Or do I just have to look really closer to the screen? I just can't see it very well.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Oh, no,
I'm on it.
Robin. I can't see it either.
Okay. Uh-oh. If someone wants to jump in and tell me how I can, what is this?
Try
Control plus.
plus.
Is this better?
Oh, yes. Yes, so much better. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Great suggestion. Thank you. So this is ClickUp. And this, everything that we're looking at right now is the Northwest Maritime Center workspace. So we are all going to be working in the Northwest Maritime Center workspace. Then with it, so right now I'm just talking about the hierarchy and like the basic structure of ClickUp. So number one is the Northwest Maritime Center workspace. Then there are spaces within here. And as you can see, I have set up these spaces pretty much for, there's a space for each department. And that's basically how we're gonna organize our work. So there's department spaces, and then on top of that, there are private spaces. So as you can see, this one is a private space. It's just the work that I have that's unrelated to anything else at the organization or unrelated to other people at the organization, things that I want to keep private. So basically the way spaces are, you can have them shared with everyone. You can have them private to just yourself, or you can have them just shared with a few people. Then within a space, and I'll talk about permissions a little bit more in a minute. So within a space, actually that was a bad example. Within a space, as you can see, there are folders. And then within a folder, there are lists. And you can also have lists just that live directly underneath the space. So not within a folder itself. And all tasks live on lists. And again, talking about permissions, you can have, even if the space is shared with, with the entire, like this development space is shared with the entire Northwest Maritime Center team. Stephen and Lynn and the development team can have folders and lists within this development space that are only shared with a select few people. So it gets very granular with the permissions, permission settings. And you can do the same thing at the list level, and you can do the same thing at the task level of just sharing it with certain people. So it's really easy to keep things private if you need to do that. So again, there's spaces, then there's folders, and then there's lists within a folder. Within a list, there are tasks. So this save the date email is a kind of a parent task, and then you can also have subtasks within that parent task. So those are tasks. In order to create a task, well, actually, let me back up a minute. So all tasks should have an assignee. They can have multiple assignees as well. They should have a start date. They should have a due date. And then they should also be assigned to a department. And the department field it's not the department. So as you can see, like this is me. The department, even though this task is a communications related task, it is living within the development space. And so that means that the department here should be development. And the reason we have this custom field here for the department is so support departments like communications or like IT or volunteers or registration can easily be able to filter and group views to see all the work that we're doing and which department it's assigned to. And really, I guess that's for the entire organization. So just know every task should have an assignee, a start date, a due date, and a department. So to create a task, there are a few different ways you can do that. You can create a task up here with this new task button. You can also scroll to the bottom of the list and create a new task that way. And then you also will notice in this bottom right-hand corner here, there are a few different quick options that you can do. You can create a task right here as well. And this is a really nice way to create tasks because it doesn't matter where in ClickUp you currently are. So I could be in the development space on the Voyages of Discovery list and realize, oh, I need to create a task that actually is under the Maritime High School. I could very easily just, instead of having to navigate over to Maritime High School here, I can use this quick create button down here. I can select the location where I want to create the task. And then I can create my task, add the assignee, add a due date, add a description, and just create it right from where I am, wherever I am in the workspace. So multiple ways that you can create new tasks. Let's see. Yeah.
Question. In the last thing, you're just creating a new task and it had like a place for comments or descriptions or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is there guidance given by the company around, is there like a best practice of, you should have this type of format for these comments, or is it at least have a standardized one, or is that something that free for all is fine?
I don't know that they have best practices in that way. I would say free for all is fine, and I'll get into the elements of the task in a minute. But essentially, I think that I think that we as a team will have best practices, like making sure that we're not that everything needs to be perfectly like grammatically correct or anything, but that we're writing in a way that people can understand. That when you create a new task, you're including the information that's needed to accomplish that task. So things like that, I think we can create as a team, but I can look up and see if they have best practices that they recommend as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's look at the elements of a task. So I opened the task up. As you can see, here's the task title, second invite email blast. Right here is the description. And I think Tuesday created this, and she did a lovely job of including, this is a little bit, this isn't quite what it'll be like because we won't have this. This work plan document would be replaced by ClickUp anyways, but she's included the info brief here. We can also include in the task description, if y'all are familiar with Notion, you're familiar with / commands. So you can add any type of information in here that you need to in order to give any background information that's necessary for that task. You can embed things, you can link to videos, you can add normal text, headlines, any of that sort of thing. Down here is a section for custom fields. Right now we only have the one. It's this department field. So if you clicked on it, you could change the custom field there. Then down here, you see all the subtasks that are falling underneath this parent task. There's also a way to add checklists. You can add relationships to other tasks. So this is a really cool feature where you can do two things. You can create dependencies, which is basically saying that this task is dependent on another, or another task is dependent on this task. Or you can create you can just link two tasks together. So maybe they're not dependent on each other, but they're really similar, but they're connected in some way. You can just link them together so that you can quickly jump from one to the other. It looks like, and I'm realizing now, you can add documents here. And then I think this is just linking to another task. So then there's also an attachments section, and you can attach files from your computer. You can attach ClickUp documents, which is something that we'll look at in a minute. Attach files from Dropbox and also Google Drive, and you can even create a new Google Doc directly out of ClickUp. Other elements of a task up here, you can see here's the assignee section, and you can again assign one person, or you can assign multiple people to a task. You can set the priority of a task as well, and these are all default, like low, normal, high, urgent. I don't think you can change the priority here, the priority options, I should say. Then over on the right hand side, this is where you can set your due date and start date. So start date, due date, and it's very easy. It's a calendar format. You can also create recurring tasks as well. And then this icon right here is the watchers icon. And this is a really cool feature. It basically says that while this task is assigned to Hallie, maybe I'm really doing this for development. So I'm going to set Len as a watcher, or I'm going to set Steven as a watcher. So they would be notified when things change about this task for any task that they're a watcher of. So that's a nice feature there. And we can also, I'll talk about automations in a minute, but we can we can actually create automation. So we can say anything in the development department, automatically set Stephen as a watcher. If we wanted to do that, we could do something like that. This is also the activity pane. So you can see anything that's happened to this task, any updates. Tuesday created the task, any more updates that she did to it. We can also tag people in comments here or add other comments. And it's really easy to do that. I can say Tuesday, what's the status on this? And then tag her in that comment. You can also link to other tasks and documents. So as you can see, there's people, you can tag people, you can tag other tasks, and you can even tag documents. And when this says docs, it means ClickUp docs. So all of that possible in this comments tab. I think that something that we can explore as a team as we move forward is how much we want to use this in replace of emails. For the sake of not changing everything at once, I haven't really developed like a best practice or a standard for how we will use comments, but I think that can be kind of like a phase 2 of how we use ClickUp, and maybe Katie, that's something that we can explore together. So anyway, so those are the basic elements of a task. You can share tasks as well. You can turn on public sharing and send links. And then there are some other options here, which actually I'll look at outside of the task panel. Well, yeah. So hold on, let me make sure I covered all my things. Oh, the other thing, so you can see right here, this calendar tag. This basically is a tag. So that's another feature in ClickUp. And I think that as a team, we should start out with 2 tags that we use across the organization. And that's a calendar tag and an email tag. And so a calendar tag is something you would give any task the calendar tag if it's a key date for the organization. So that could be an event or a date like applications are going live, or I'm trying to think of another one. A go, no go decision for if we're going to run.
Come on, boy. Relax.
If we're going to run, the Race to Alaska this year, something like that. Those would all get the calendar tag. And the purpose of that is so that we can create a view in ClickUp where we can filter by just things that are that have the calendar tag, and really get an at a glance view of the key dates for the organization. Similarly, we would have an email tag, which isn't on here, but so this is an email blast. This tag represents when the email is being sent. So I would give it the email tag. And very similarly to how we would use the calendar tag, we're using the email tag so that we can filter on all tasks at the organization that have this tag, so that we can see when blast emails are going out for the entire organization.
Hey, Haley,
yeah.
Can you explain, since we're talking about it now, how will that calendar tag, it sounds like the utility of that would be the same as what we already have in Google of our organizational calendar. And are we going to be expected to do both? Populate the organizational calendar, or I guess that's something more that Kate and Verity manage, but how are those two things different?
That's a great question. So I don't see this, I see this actually more connected to that calendar that we have in Notion. And so this is something maybe another thing that maybe Katie, and Kate and Verity, we can talk about. But I think that that Notion calendar is very helpful, because the organizational calendar, to me as the communications person, doesn't help me get a view of what's happening across the organization, because there are so many other events like room rentals and that sort of thing that I don't need to know. And there's no easy way to filter out those things. So this would replace the Notion calendar, which I'm sorry, I don't have pulled up right now, where it's just a way to view the key dates. So there's no room rentals, there's nothing like that. It is really just key dates. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I guess more maybe the question is, what is the expectation for us as staff? And we'll say, I know in the program department, there at times has been an expectation of populate the organizational calendar with, what activities we're doing, what programs are happening, or what, resources we're going to be using. That's why we went and got Camp Brain conference module. So are we being expected to both populate that, or giving that information to Kate and Verity so they can populate it, as well as populating ClickUp with our activity?
I
Over.
can't speak to the I don't think that I'm the one to tell you how the process works for the organizational calendar, but for this calendar, you would be adding these things in as part of the work plan process anyways. So it's just a matter of assigning the tag. Like when you and when you're creating a work plan for an event or for a program, part of that work plan is having the date of the program listed in there as a task. So it's something that you would be doing anyways. It's not going to be like the only added step is that you're assigning it the calendar tag.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I understand that it's not arduous. I was just trying to differentiate the utility of the two.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's maybe maybe that can be a separate conversation as to like, if we want to change what we're using the organizational calendar for, or maybe we don't, just maybe that's something that we can talk about.
Yeah, I think like, let's take a look at that. Let's put that on our list of things to take a look at, just to minimize duplication of effort.
Great.
And sort of be able to filter the major milestones from the just sort of activity log.
That's great. And just so everybody knows, I have Tuesday taking notes. So she's recording the questions that people are asking. So don't feel like it's just going off into space.
You mentioned the calendar tag, but is there a way to visualize the tasks at like a smaller subset level so that you can like, look at tasks within your own project?
Like tasks that are assigned to you, or what do you?
Like if you create a workflow and you've got a bunch of things and you want to see sort of where you're lining up, but you don't want them to be tied to like an organizational calendar, a much larger view calendar. Can you visualize your tasks in some way and like group them in a way that's useful?
Yes. So I will talk about that very shortly, but yes, we'll talk about how y'all can easily see the work that's just for your project or just assigned to you, or just and how to create views that best help you visualize your work. Absolutely. I'll get to that in a minute.
Holly, maybe a related question, or maybe it's the same question. I don't know. You can tell me it's the same question. How flexible are we on these tags? Like email tags seems like it's very relevant to communications, but if there's a program tag, I can see that being very relevant to programs. So is that an expandable menu that we'll have a conversation about sometime, or is that one that is kind of set to its optimal level with a couple?
Nope, I think that we can expand this definitely. I just want to be very intentional about it so that we don't end up with so many tags and there's duplicate tags and that sort of thing. So as long as we can do that, I think as a team and decide really what the tags are, I'm all for that.
Thanks.
Hallie, I have a question related to that. It was really helpful in reorganizing the program drive to have that list of like acceptable naming conventions and acceptable abbreviations for things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be great if this was consistent with that with Google Drive, where you can use abbreviations and where you should have full names and things like that.
Yeah.
And maybe similar with tags, even if it's something that we're populating together.
That's a great idea. I love that.
I had that same question. So that document that you had sent to Chrissy, I actually have on like quick grab in my notebook. So I wonder if that's something that a distilled version of that, like the top 3 things that we would need to know for those naming conventions that we could go to regularly as we're building would be really helpful.
Yes,
maybe it's in that ClickUp training folder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have started that already in that documentation that y'all can reference, but I think you're right on that we should build it out a little bit more and be really specific about that. Okay, so I'm going to jump over and look at notification settings, which you can access down in here. If you click here, here's where you can access a bunch of different settings. Y'all will see as standard users, you'll see these options over here on the right. So I'm gonna, if I clicked on the notification settings, it would take me here. And this is where there are a whole slew of notifications that you can turn on or off at the individual level. I'm not gonna go into each one because as you can see, it is incredibly granular and a very long list. But you can go through here and you can, you can say like, okay, I want to see email notifications for only certain things, mobile notifications, you could turn all those off altogether. I should say mobile notifications. One of the questions on that need to know was there an app? And yes, there is. So that's what these mobile notifications are here. So anyways, so just note, and as part of the next steps for after Thursday, once we've all been initially trained, I have a list of like what you can do on your first day, what you can do in your first couple of weeks. So I break that down, and we'll talk about that more later of what that timeline looks like. But one of the steps for you as a user will be to go in and set your notifications how you want them. And these can always be changed. So maybe you start out with a certain set of notifications and then you realize that you want to make a change. That's totally doable. Okay, so quick review, as you can, of the ClickUp structure. This whole thing is the Northwest Maritime Center workspace. There are then spaces for each department. And then within a department space, there are folders. And within the folders, there are lists. And then you can also have a list that just live, let's see if there's one here. You can see this list just lives within the facility space. It doesn't live within a folder. And then all tasks live on a list, and you can have tasks, you can have subtasks as well. So part of that timeline that I just talked about will be setting up your department spaces in ways that help y'all do the work. So there will be some standards of how we set up the work that happens cross-departmentally. But then there's also, in every department, there's a lot of work that happens that really doesn't touch other departments. And so that's where you as a department and as a team would be able to really customize that folder and list structure to be what's best for you. And I'm going to be scheduling meetings with folks over the next few weeks so that I can help you through that process and help you think through that. So give me a moment. So now we'll talk about views. And Chris, I think this is going to answer I hope this will answer your question about how to view your work and subsets of your work and that sort of thing. So at every level, so at the space level, at the folder level, and at the list level, there are different views. And that's what these tabs are up here at the top. Views can be private to you as an individual, or they can be shared with everyone. Unfortunately, there's no middle ground. You can't have a view that's just shared with a few people. That's, I think, like one of the only limitations I found with ClickUp so far. But anyways, it's so shared with you. They can be private views or they can be shared with everyone. And so there are so many views. I think to help us start ClickUp in a more bite-sized manner, we should focus on these three views at first: a list view, a board view, and a calendar view. And so these are all, basically these views are all ways of viewing tasks. So it's just visualizing tasks in a different way. So this list view, this is what we've been looking at. It's set up by, right now, you can see here, you can change the grouping. It's grouped by status. You can group it by assignee, priority. You can group it by a custom field. You can also filter views over on this side. And then you can also, which is the coolest, one of the coolest things about ClickUp is that you can turn on me mode. In me mode, it doesn't matter where you are in the workspace. If you click that button, it's only going to show you tasks that you're assigned to or that you're watching. So you can turn that on or off. And then you can also click this everyone mode and then select the people that you want to see tasks for. So I could see that being really helpful for like department managers who just want to see the tasks that are assigned to the people in their department. That's a way that you could easily create that view. Also within a view, as you can see here, you can expand or collapse subtasks. And then there are a handful of other settings here as well. So this is the basic list view. The board view, probably a lot of us are familiar with the Kanban concept. So that's basically what this is. You can move tasks from to do, to in progress, stuck. You can kind of just move them through the process that way. And again, from any view, you can open the task and make edits to it. You can create new tasks from any of these views up here. And you can filter, group, you have all the same settings depending on in any of the tasks that you're on. So now we're looking at a calendar view. And I have, so as you can see, and again, we're only looking right now at the Voyages of Discovery project that's in ClickUp. That's why there's not that much in here. But you're basically just seeing all your tasks in a calendar setting. You can, there are a handful of different settings. You can decide how the tasks are colored, whether or not you want to show subtasks. You can, anyways, lots of settings here as well. You can also, and I will talk about this a little bit more later, but you can sync your Google Calendar with ClickUp. So I've done that. I can overlay my meeting calendar with ClickUp and see that all together in one space. Also, the nice thing about the calendar view, you can choose the time period that you want to see. So maybe a week view is a better way to visualize your work, for example.
Hallie, can you tell us whether that sync works both ways? Like if you create something in ClickUp, will it then also transfer to the Google Calendar?
Yeah, so this is, there's actually two ways to view your calendar, your Google Calendar and your ClickUp calendar in one place. There's this way where you're adding your Google Calendar to ClickUp. And I don't believe, okay, so if I can't make edits to my Google Calendar straight from here, if I clicked on this, I could say view in Google Calendar and it would open up and then I can make the edits there. But there is another sync option where you can sync your ClickUp tasks to your Google Calendar. So in that setting, you're looking at your normal Google Calendar and you can overlay your ClickUp tasks on top of it. And in that version, you can make edits to your ClickUp tasks and it'll sync two ways. Does that, so.
Can I just say that out loud, just in my own head, just so I make sure I understand, because I think I like what Joe's question is. So it sounds like the most user-friendly would be to link your tasks to Google Calendar so that when you look at Google Calendar, you see the tasks that you have. You can edit the tasks there and you see your calendar there. If I were to be operating in ClickUp, I can't click on my Google Calendar and make changes there. So if I want to be right, so like the place to be able to access both tasks and calendar is in Google Calendar. Is that what you're saying?
I think you can edit, and Daniel, you might have done this and maybe you can answer this question, but I think you can edit your tasks from Google Calendar.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so when you're doing that, and there's extensive documentation on like actually how to set up your Google to create these things. But when you're doing that, essentially you would create a separate calendar in Google for all of your ClickUp tasks so that you can just you can check the box or uncheck it to show them or not, so that you're not just bombarding your normal Google Calendar with all of your ClickUp tasks. Okay, so that was views. Make sure I've covered everything. Oh, the other great thing about views. So when you create a view, you can, in addition, so you're not limited to just one list view, one board view, and one calendar view. You can actually duplicate the view and then make edits and like make additional list views or additional board views, additional calendar views as well. And then also you can add views to your favorites. So it's something you come back to a lot. You can add it there. And as you can see up here, I have two favorite views right here that I can quickly access. So I'm not going to jump in. Yeah.
Sorry, quick question for the views. Is there anything we need to do to be careful not to like mess up the universal views if we're creating our own views, or is it will it prevent us from?
Yeah, great question. So as a standard user, you are only able to create personal views. Power users and power users are able to create views for more at the universal level. And so And I have some documentation that'll show everyone that you can read, that'll show you like what you can and can't do as a standard user, and then what you'll need to ask power users to do for you. So that's the way that I think we'll kind of keep the reins on what views are created at a universal level.
Okay.
So in addition to this list, board, and calendar view, there are other task views. I'm not going to jump into these right now because there's so much in ClickUp, and I really don't want us to feel too overwhelmed because I know this is a lot of information anyways, but I'm just showing you now so that you know what's possible for when you're a few months down the line and you feel like you've really got to hang a ClickUp, and maybe you want to explore some additional functionality. So in addition to the list, board, and calendar views, there's a map view, an activity view, a box view, which shows a bit of, it's like a workload view in a way. And there's another workload view here, but it's a way of showing like who's working on what they have done, what they have outstanding, that sort of thing. There's a Gantt chart. There's a mind map view, a table view, which is essentially just showing all of your tasks in more of like an Excel format. A timeline view, which is similar to Gantt, but a little bit different. And then this workload view that I was talking about before, which is actually really cool. Another feature in ClickUp is the ability to estimate time and track time. And so I haven't turned this feature on because, again, I'm trying to like scale down what we bite off right at the beginning. But I could see this being a really valuable resource for us, that we can essentially estimate time for each task in ClickUp. And then with this workload view, it will show me that Hallie has 8 hours a day to do her work, and she has tasks that are taking up 5 hours of the day or whatever. It's a really nice way to visualize how much work you have scheduled out for each day, and then you can you can move tasks to other days and things like that. So these are all task views. There are also, let me make sure I covered it.
Hallie?
Yeah.
I had a question about the workload. How is like how are the number of hours calculated for the tasks? Is that something you figure out for every task that you create?
Yep. You would just take a guess. So I have this, let's see, final language for email. I think this is proofing the email. There is essentially, if we were using this time estimate field, there would be a field, like a column here for time estimates. And I would type in like 30 minutes or 1 hour or whatever. And ClickUp is really like intelligent and how it interprets what you're putting in. So. You can also, so there are also a slew of templates in ClickUp, and we can create our own templates as well. So you can create a space template, a folder template, a list template. You can even create task templates. So for example, Lynn, in that scenario, if we were using this time estimate field, you could create a task in ClickUp for like sending out a blast email, and it has all of the subtasks and all of it. We can tell it to save all of the time estimates as well. So then the next time you spin up this task for sending out a blast email, it would automatically populate all of those fields.
Now, just to reiterate, we're not gonna use that feature right now.
Correct. I was not thinking we would use that right now. I think that is something we could explore as a team later on. But for the sake of keeping things as simple as possible to begin with, I wasn't thinking we would use it right now.
So Hallie, this is Eileen. I just want to be sure I understand. So like right now, if I create a task in Notion, I can create a task template that I want to see for when I do my own personal private tasks. And I have certain fields that I want to come up, and I've created drop downs and choices and things that I can create. I can use every time I want to create a task. I have these 5 fields or whatever that I've chosen what's in them to use. So are you saying that we can do that with our own tasks here, or we can only do those templates when we're creating an organization task?
You can create templates that you can select who the template can be used by. Okay. Where I think it gets a little more complicated is that when you create fields, those fields are accessible for the entire workspace. So I actually, you know what? I think that's not true. I think I'm only able to see them for the entire workspace because I'm an admin. Anyways, like for example, Eileen, you and your like Eileen private space could have a whole slew of custom fields that you use to track your work, and you could create a template that you save as just a private Eileen template, and you could use it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are task views. There, in addition to task views, there are page views. And this is, there's a chat view, documents, which are essentially ClickUp's version of Google Docs, embed views, and then a forum view as well. So a chat view, I'll just show you, is pretty kind of what it sounds like. Here's a chat, there isn't anything here, but I could say, or I could, this is, I'll talk about the everything view in a second, but I can tag someone. It's similar to the, you know, adding a comment and at the task level. I can tag people, I can tag tasks, I can tag docs, I can say whatever I want. So we as a staff maybe want to have this chat view where we send updates to each other. That's just a suggestion. I think that's a follow-up conversation to have, but it is a possibility. And then in addition to that, we have, so the doc views, this is an example of a doc view. I've created a series of documents for ClickUp that everyone can use when they get going. And you can have doc views at any of these levels. So maybe development has their, in the development space, they want to have a doc view where they keep track of certain development information that they frequently want to reference. You can create docs in ClickUp for that purpose. In addition to that, if instead you already had these documents in Google, so as you can remember, I said we're not trying to replace Google Docs with ClickUp Docs. But so if you have a document that you in programs frequently want to reference, for example, you can embed that document in, hopefully this won't take forever to load. It's a pretty hefty document, which I think is why it's taking a long time. But anyways, you can embed Google Docs in ClickUp. And so right now, like this is the, in programs, this is our program descriptions and schedules 2021, which we frequently have to reference when we're doing work for programs. So I've embedded it here. As you can see, I have access to all the tabs in this Google Sheet. And if I make changes here, it is, it's gonna make those changes in the Google Sheet as well.
Do we have to set up any permissions or something between Google and ClickUp to do that around that embedding with a Google Doc? I guess what I'm asking is, we just put the link in there, and then it basically the back end is that it's automatically taking us to that actual document within our Google Drive. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, so I just created a new view, and then I dropped the URL in here. It might originally ask you to like approve, you know, to let ClickUp talk to your Google Drive. It's been so long since I set this up, but it's really quick if it is.
Okay, thank you.
So you can also, you can embed all sorts of things in here. You could even embed a Google Calendar if you wanted to. Okay, so that's the embed view. In addition, there is the form view. And so this is something I think would be really helpful for IT, for probably in communications as well, possibly for facilities, that we can create forms in ClickUp that feed into a list view. So I just took a stab at creating a form for Pete for IT requests. And so here's where I can edit that form and create it. There's settings along the right-hand side here. You can add fields to the form, and then you can make that form public, and you can share it with people outside of ClickUp as well. They don't have to have an account. So I create the form, and then when someone fills out the form, it automatically will feed into ClickUp and feed into a task view that then Pete can make edits on. So form view, super helpful.
Hallie, can you say what you said again about sharing with people outside of ClickUp? That was one of my questions.
Yeah, so you'd have to give me a second, but I can copy the link, and then I can just, like, someone doesn't need to be logged in to ClickUp to see this field for this form. So like if you needed to share, I don't know if that was Chris who asked that question, but if you, for example, wanted to share this like with tenants who don't use ClickUp, you could easily give them the link to this view.
Can you then get reports from those? I mean, is that something that you could run a report on? You know, I've gotten 5 requests for phone help in the last week, and Pete goes, must be something wrong with our phones that I need to figure out or something. I mean, is there a way to do that?
There is a way to do that. You would have to set up some custom fields so that someone, if you were trying to specifically run a report on like phone requests, there would have to be probably a custom field in here that's like category or something. And it says, and there's a drop down and you select phone, for example. But yes, you could do that.
So Hallie, along the same vein in those forms, could you, so if you had a field in there that was like, you know, a solved date, so that you had a request date, a solved date, and then some kind of a report that would show you how much time it took to solve requests?
Yeah, so I actually left that. I think I started that in this list. I have a days open field, which doesn't seem like it's working currently, but I believe it's possible to do that.
I was monkeying with that earlier too. I may have inadvertently broke it. Sorry.
It's okay. It's been a while since I set this up, so it may have never worked, but yeah.
But theoretically, it could do it.
Yes, theoretically, yes, it could do it.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, I've also, as you can see, I've added a request tag here so that Pete could see things that are like, if Pete is only working from this one list so he can track all of his work, he could see that all of these things have been requests from other people versus something that maybe he added himself, or I don't know. And you can, the nice thing, I actually don't know, I don't think I scheduled a time to actually really talk about automations, but there are a slew of automations in ClickUp. And so you can create an automation that says, anytime this form is submitted, I want to assign it the request tag, or anytime this form is submitted, I want to assign it to Pete, things like that.
Or anytime Eileen submits a task, it automatically gets assigned low priority.
You know, I feel like you could actually do that. I do think I think it's possible.
Okay.
What about archiving? Can you use this to go back and see like a history of things?
Yes, there is an archive option. And to tell you the truth, I have not explored like accessing the archives. So maybe Tuesday, will you write that down as something that I can look at?
And so also on this, you could filter this view so that anything completed doesn't show on the list.
Yeah, so actually that's a, thank you for saying that. So so in ClickUp, we can have custom status sets, and I have created one for the organization just because I could, that, here, I'll look at here. So the basic, this is the basic status set that I have, like, that's by default is what every department space in here is using. That is not, I think that as a standard practice, we should all, for most of the work that we do, we should try to stick to these data sets. If we're, as a team, realizing that like, well, actually, a lot of us really need a not started or status or something like that. You need an additional status, then maybe I think we should explore as a team changing this basic status set across the workspace so that we're all working from the same sets of statuses, generally speaking. I think there's wiggle room in there for like different types of work. For example, grants would probably have their own status set. But anyways, so I've created this one, and as you can see here, there's to do in progress, stuck, on hold, on fire, complete, and then closed. So yeah.
Sorry. When a task is past the due date, does ClickUp automatically put it to on fire, or is that something you have to move manually?
Actually, we could set up automations to do that. You have to set up automations at the space, like you can't set up automations across the entire workspace. You'd have to do it at the space level, folder, or list level. So if in development you wanted to do that, you could. Also, there's a, you know, when something is overdue, it'll pop up as red right here. And you also get notifications when things are overdue. But yeah, I think you could do that. You could say, if you could set up an automation to do that.
Sorry, Hallie had another question since you're back on this view.
Yeah.
How do we share or collaborate with, for example, volunteers or outside contractors on projects like this who don't have ClickUp?
Yeah, so we, well, a couple of ways. You can actually share this view publicly. So you could just give them access to look at it if you wanted to do that. If you actually need someone to be able to work in ClickUp for a project, we can create guest users and they have access. You can give them access to folders, lists, or tasks. You just can't give them access to the entire space. So that would be a way, for example, if y'all were using like an event coordinator as a contractor and you really needed them to be able to work in ClickUp, we would probably give them a guest account where they can work on voyages of discovery for any, we could, you know, give them access to this folder, but just not the entire development space.
And then how can you see, like, if Lynn has given someone access outside the organization and that's a space that I work in too, how would I know who has access to that space? How do I view when I'm adding something in there that someone else can see it that I may not be aware of?
You know, that's a great question. I'm not sure if everyone has access to view space settings, or not space settings, but that's Tuesday. Will you write that down? Because like I know that if as me as an admin, I can click on sharing and permissions and I can see who it's who has access to it. But I don't know as a standard user what you would have access to. That said, only Pete and me and Pete and I have the ability to invite guests to a space. So no one is just doing that like willy-nilly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we're talking about statuses. Sorry, I got lost a little bit. Oh, let's look at the everything view. So this is, I'm super excited about this view. This I think applies to some of us more than it applies to other people. But the everything view is showing you all of the tasks within the entire workspace. So actually, let me back up a minute. I don't think that I really talked about this specifically. The really cool thing about ClickUp is that you can view tasks. You can get as granular as you want or as like small scale as you want. So for example, in development, I can choose to only see the tasks that are in the Voyages of Discovery list. I could choose to see, this is maybe not the best example because there's nothing there. Let's pretend that there were additional lists within this Voyages of Discovery folder. I could say, I could choose to just view one list at a time. I could click up a level and see all of the tasks within the Voyages of Discovery folder. Or as you can see, there's other folders here. I can click at the development space level and see all of the tasks within the development space. And you can have different views, so list views, board views, calendar views, or any of these other options at any of these levels. So maybe at the Voyages of Discovery level, I really only want to see a list view and a calendar view. I could get rid of this board view. But at the development level, I want to see a list view, a board view, a calendar view, and a Gantt view. You can set that up as well. So that to me is something that it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because it can get a little unwieldy if you're not careful, but it's really giving us the option, like the ability to really customize the information that we're looking at a given time. So in line with that, there's the everything view. And so the everything view is going to give you access to everything that you have permission to see within the entire workspace. So it's not gonna, you're not gonna see, if you're not me, you wouldn't see the tasks that I've put in my private Hallie space, for example. And and then at the everything view, we can have lists, you know, all of the views as well up here. This is a great place where we could put resources and documents and things like that. We could have an all staff chat. We can see at the Gantt view of the entire organization as well. Gantt view is really, you can expand things in the Gantt view, which is pretty cool if you group down. Gantt view is nice in that way. And then also at the everything view. So for example, I have created, as you can see, there's multiple list views at the everything level. One of them, I created a comms list. This is something that we will do selectively, but because I created ClickUp and I wanted to, I created a comms view. So this view is showing, so there's a filter here where it is showing everything that's assigned to me, Jess, or Tuesday, or also this communications team, which is another feature that is really cool. You can create teams of people. So you can have a programs team where everyone in programs is assigned to this user that's a team. Anyways, so I've created a comms list view where I'm only seeing the tasks that are assigned to the communications department. And this is really helpful because the kind of standard for how we will organize the work in ClickUp is that the work lives in the department that owns the project. It's not living in the department that is doing the work necessarily. So for example, in communications, we do work for all the departments. So the work that we're doing for development is going to live in the development is going to live in the development space, and the work we do for facility rentals lives in the facility rental space. So this everything view up here is giving us as a support department, and this would be also helpful for Pete and IT and Kate and Verity and registration, anything that's where you're working, and possibly Eileen in finance, anything where your work is happening in multiple spaces. This is giving you the ability to view all that work in one place. And this is where that department custom field is really coming into play, because I wanted to be able to group this work by department. And that's what's giving me the ability to do that. And so I have saved this list as it's a public list, unfortunately, because I can't save it just as only visible for a few people just because of the limitations in ClickUp. It's a public list. So if there are other public lists that we want to create at the everything level, that's something that should run through probably Katie and maybe me to begin with, and we'll decide whether or not that list really should be at the everything level, or sorry, if that view should be at the everything level, or if it maybe is better suited for another location in ClickUp. So then similarly over here, I have a calendar. There's a regular calendar view for the entire organization, and then there's a communications calendar as well. And then this is also where that me mode comes into play again. So if you were, like, for example, if we're looking at all of the tasks in ClickUp, I can very quickly click the me button and only see the tasks that are assigned to me or that I'm watching as well. So any questions about the everything view?
Hallie, when you create those, like you have a list view, and if you click the calendar, will it automatically let you see that list as a calendar view, or do you have to actually create it?
Nope, it's all just different ways of viewing the tasks that you created. So you could create lists in any of these, or sorry, you could create tasks from any of these views, and they will automatically sync up with the other task views. And again, those task views, as you can see here, there's list, board, calendar, map, activity, everything that above the page views thing. These are all ways of viewing tasks. So if you, one thing I'm realizing that I actually forgot to talk about in terms of tasks and things you can edit with tasks and do with them are you can, let's scroll down to, I don't know, we'll choose this one. So if I select this task, and I can do this, I can select multiple tasks at the same time. You can, like, if maybe for all of these, if I wanted to make a change, I can set watchers, assignees, I can change the status. I can convert these to subtasks. I can, oh, this is a nice feature. So you can move, if let's say, you can move tasks to a new list, or you can also put tasks in two lists at the same time. So create a shortcut basically in another list. So if the task is in two different lists, if you updated it in one spot, it would update it in the other spot as well. So that's a nice feature. You can duplicate tasks, set the dates, priority, milestones. That's another one that I didn't talk about. So you can, as you, I think you'll see, look at development. As somewhere in here, you can see this Voyages of Discovery calendar event. We have set it as a milestone. So to do that, you just right click it. Well, I unmarked it, but if you right clicked it, you could mark it as a milestone. And as you can see, that makes it stand out. It makes it bold, and it gives it this little diamond icon to the left of it. And that will also make it stand out more on like a Gantt view or a timeline view as well. it'll just, it just holds your attention more. So things that are key dates that we're working up towards. So for example, if Lynn and Stephen were trying to finalize the speakers at one of their development events, maybe that is like a big date that they're working up towards. They can mark that as a milestone so that it stands out more. Okay. So we talked about the Google Calendar extension. The other really nice thing, and I'm sorry, I didn't turn it on. All right, I don't have my email open, but there's a Google Chrome extension that you can turn on. And I'll just open my email address really quick. Oh, that was not what I meant to open. Gmail, sorry. I can, I'll use this as an example. Okay, so here we go. So I've turned on this Google Chrome extension. I can, from anywhere in Chrome, it doesn't actually have to be in Gmail. You can be on any website you want. But in the email version, I can click this button and I can quickly create a task or attach this email to a task. So if I create a new task from this email, I can select new task. I can choose where it's located in ClickUp. So I can choose the space that it's in, the folder that it's in, the list that it's in. I can add a description, assignee and due date, and I can create that task. And then it will be, so we'll pretend like we've done it. And then when I look back at my inbox, I see this little icon here that shows that there is a ClickUp task from this email address or out of this email. So that's a really useful feature. Additionally, if you install this Chrome extension, this little icon will be at the bottom of your page all the time. And I'm sure I'm realizing this is probably really small for y'all, but there's a little ClickUp button here. Oops. And if I click on it, this is so tiny. Sorry, y'all. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oh, that didn't really make it any bigger. I can create a new task as well from anywhere in Chrome. So this could be on a web page or anything like that. I can just create the new task button. I can choose, where it's located and create that task from here as well. Additionally, I'm going to jump back to ClickUp and show you something. So some additional.
If that works on mobile, like if you're checking your email on your phone, does it have that extension?
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I will have to look into that.
I don't know.
Daniel, you've used the mobile. Have you experienced that at all?
I have not found the ability to do that through the Chrome browser on mobile. Okay. I haven't checked on an iPad, but I couldn't get it. I didn't find any solution on my phone.
Okay. So others. Let's see. Some other helpful, I just wanted to cover really quick some helpful tips. Make sure, sorry, I'm just making sure that I'm doing everything. So these features on here, we talked about the task option here. There's also a notepad option, and you can create notes really quick and ClickUp. You can also create those notes using this feature as well. And it'll automatically sync with ClickUp. So if you're doing some work wherever in Chrome, you could very quickly create a new note and just jot down some notes. And then you can even, if you can write, oh, man, that's not working. Convert to a task. You can convert this note to a task down here as well. So it's just a really nice way to very quickly be able to, this is where I think that ClickUp goes beyond just a task tracker, and it's really a way that you can actually manage all the work that you're doing and help you with your workflow and that sort of thing.
Hey, Hallie, can I ask a question about the notes?
Yeah.
I know that they're stored in a folder right on the left-hand side. Is there an easy way to attach them to a task or your project?
Do you mean docs?
No, the notes, the note taker that you were just talking about.
I don't know that you can attach them to tasks, but you can turn them into tasks. But that's a good question. Tuesday, will you write that one down and I can look at it?
Thanks.
Documents, though, you can attach to a task. You can also create reminders as well. So things that maybe aren't big enough to warrant like creating an entire task, but you just need a like reminder to like, I need to follow up with Tuesday about XYZ. I can create that as a reminder. The other, and then last other little helpful tip that I think is a really nice feature is that if I am working on a save the date email and I'm always having to refer back to this, and I don't want to forget that that's something that I'm working on, but maybe I'm getting pulled into something else, I can use this button here to minimize the task, and it will drop it down into this bottom little area, and it's called the task tray. And so I can quickly refer back to that task that I was working on and kind of not lose my place. Other ways to view the work, we've talked about views, we've talked about me mode and ways that you can filter and group views. The other place that you and we'll talk about this more on Thursday when we really get into like the day-to-day of how you might use ClickUp. But this home button on the left-hand side is something that we'll all be looking at hopefully every day that we work. So you go to your home button, as you can see along this left-hand side, it is showing me the tasks that I need to work on today, the tasks that are overdue, things that are coming up next, and things that I have maybe assigned to me that I've created that are unscheduled. You can also see comments that have happened where people have tagged me. You can see things that have been marked complete. And then I can also see the things that I have delegated. Sign a member, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, this lineup feature is also a way that you can order your tasks in importance. So maybe even though you've assigned, even though all of your tasks have due dates, you really want to focus on a handful of tasks this week or today or anything like that. You can add tasks here as well, and you can search for them instead of having to scroll through this whole list, and add tasks to your lineup. Then along the left-hand side here, you can also see the tasks that are, for today, tomorrow, etc. And I think you can as well turn on your calendar, your Google Calendar. I don't know why I didn't.
Hey, Hallie.
Yeah.
Oh.
How is the lineup feature? It seems like the outcome of using that would be the same as using a Gantt board. I mean, not a Gantt board, a Kanban board, and arranging things by status. How are they different?
Well, no, a lineup is like, these are the things that I want to focus on. So it's like, I have 5 things that I have to do today, and I'm going to do them in this order. Or I have 5 things that I need to accomplish this week, and I want to do them in this order. So it's just a way of organizing your own task personally. I haven't used it because I just work based on when I've set the start date and due date. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Robin, I've been playing with the lineup as a way of creating blocks of work for my day that are prioritized. So you can take all your tasks and given what opportunities you have for the day, you can rearrange them kind of without consideration of priority or other things that may have been given to them, knowing what you can tackle for that day.
Thanks, Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
So really
there's
quick.
a couple questions popped up in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Just before you move on to the next one.
Sure. Let me, boy, how do I get that open again? Hold on. Give me a minute. How do I get it back?
I can read them if you want, Holly.
Sure, read them. That'd be great.
That's always helpful for me. Joe wants to know, when it comes to task assignment, does the assignee have to accept or does the assignee have the ability to decline an assigned task?
Yeah, so that's when we'll talk about that more on Thursday about what this looks like. But again, we're not assigning tasks to people without their prior understanding. So tasks, and I'm going to jump into this a lot more on Thursday, but essentially tasks can come from a few different places. They can come from a work plan meeting, an email request, something you came up with yourself. Maybe they come from your manager or another, just a request from someone else. So you are always given the option. I mean, we're not changing the way we do these things. So if someone says like, especially from another department, like if I say, Kate, hey, we just had this work plan meeting. It was for communications. You weren't there, but we realized there were some registration tasks that came out of that work plan meeting. These are the dates that we assigned to you or to Verity, but we just want to, I'm going to send her an email or talk to her, whatever, in a check-in or whatever. And I'm going to say, these are the things that we assigned to you. These are the dates that we put down. Does this work for you? So Kate is always able to say like, yes, that works, or no, it doesn't. We need to adjust the timeline. You didn't give me enough time to do X, Y, Z, that sort of thing. If it's coming from your manager, that's something to work out with your manager. Well, you know, is this really based on priorities? Do I need to get this done today, or can I get it done in a day from now, or whatever? So that's kind of how the task assignments will work. So you're not, for example, I'm not assigning things to Barb, or I'm not assigning things to Chris to do on a certain day. I'm requesting things, or I'm suggesting, I'm saying, hey, this is the timeline that we've established as a team. Does it work for you?
Okay.
Sorry, just one follow-up. It seems like there's maybe some system development opportunities there to determine how that works so it's consistent across the organization. Just I could just imagine that some people might assign tasks in a different way than others, and if we could make it more consistent, or determine when a task becomes a real task, or when that pre-talk or pre-approval happens, or how, whether it's in ClickUp or outside of ClickUp, that kind of thing. It just seems like there might be some ambiguity and opportunities to make something consistent.
Okay.
2 more questions in the chat if you want them. One from Stephanie: can you create an event in calendar from email like in Gmail?
Stephanie, are you saying can I add an event to my calendar from Gmail or from ClickUp?
Yeah, so it's sort of from, if we have it in our email, can it become a task, or can it become an event on our calendar in ClickUp? You know how to make event from an email in Gmail? Are you familiar with that?
No, I've never used that.
Okay.
But so I don't know the answer. Can I create an event? So I can create, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that.
Not a huge deal. It just made me think about it because we're talking about assigning tasks from emails. And so it just made me think about it on that.
Stephanie, do you want to read your other question?
Yeah, I had, and actually it's similar, I think, to what Joe was just bringing up, just maybe in a different way. My question was just around expectations and process around how we're going to engage in this as a team.
Yeah.
So like, is there recommendation on how we create a work plan and what those expectations are of, like, we suggest that you have a pre-meeting and then another meeting, and then this is how long the process should take. Also related to that is like, what are our expectations around time and how much of this is a priority? And then the next one related to that is like, is there a timeline by when, like, we're having milestones around, okay, we have 50% of our work plans in place. We've got 75% of our work plans in place. All of our work plans are in place by September 1st or whatever it is.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that more on Thursday, where we really talk about like how we will use this as a team. But I think it is really, as again, we're using it in conjunction with our existing project management process. So those, I'm sure that there is room for improvement to those processes, but I think that those should happen, like, we're not changing anyways. Yeah, we're using
part of the vetting. That makes sense. So there's like whatever that vetting process is, this just gets inserted into that.
Well, but really that, I think that people call it the vetting process, but it's really like, it's more than vetting. Like, that was the whole project management process for the organization. And I'm sure there's room for improvement. I'm not saying that, but that really, that process map, like only the first line of it is vetting, and the rest of it is actually like working on the project. So yeah, so this just fits into that place. I'm sure, Stephanie, you're right. There needs to, and Joe, like, we can, and I do have some documents built out in ClickUp where it talks about like how we will actually be using this as a team. But I know that there's room for improvement, and I think now that Katie's on board, that hopefully that can happen over the next year.
No, I think that brings up a great point around that project process map and how this fits into that, and where, and what are the steps of this process as part of that larger process in terms of the context.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Holly.
Any other questions?
We have one more from Lynn of who's responsible for training new hires in ClickUp?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know that I have an answer for that right now. I think it will either be me or Katie, but I don't know that for sure. So we'll figure that out. I think
We'll
it
have
will
to duke
be
it out amongst the power users.
I know, right? Yeah, and that could be it too. That it's a power user thing. I think there's also a need for like we'll probably ask them to like watch the recordings of these meetings and yeah. So we'll have to sort that out.
I'm sure there'll also be norms among departments. So
yeah.
like in finance, the things that we've done within our space, we would train that person on, and we would never expect a power user to train our staff on how we do the things we've decided to do.
Exactly.
So I think that's going to be the supervisor of those departments would probably be the best person to do the department norms.
I think you're right. Some other things that I just wanted to touch base on based on the questions that were asked in that kind of need to know clicky or sticky board. We talked about, someone asked about time tracking and if how that works and if it can be exported. And so, yes, there is a time tracking feature. You can either start and stop time, or you can actually just add, if you didn't start and stop it at the right time, but you knew that you worked on a task for 2 hours yesterday, you can just add that in. Time is tracked at the task level. So there's a little bit of a limitation there. You can't track it to the folder or space level. And you can export any view as a CSV, and there's some other export options as well. There is a Salesforce integration. That was another question. It's pretty limited. I think there's like you can create tasks in ClickUp based on opportunities that are created in Salesforce. And that's using Zap as like a third-party integration. So it's a little limited there, but I think there's some workarounds we can do by like adding links from Salesforce into ClickUp or adding ClickUp links into Salesforce, that sort of thing. We talked about guest users and we talked about the mobile app. So those were some more technical questions that I saw that I didn't want to dive into too wholeheartedly, but definitely wanted to cover today.
Hey, Hallie, can I just add something just real quick?
Absolutely, yeah.
I just want to say that one of the challenges that I ran across was how to get the information into ClickUp and then get it into the places that belong. Because oftentimes I found like I was having conversations, and out of those conversations, tasks would get generated or reminders would need to happen or even dates would get made. And what ended up working for me, and I just want people to know, was that through like the mobile, etc., is if you just hit the you hit that bar down there and it brings up the notification rather than the task. You can speak into it or type into it, and that will just auto-populate onto your home screen. And then you just need to give a little time, either at the end of the day or the beginning of the next day, where you can organize those as you want. You can turn them into tasks, you can keep them as reminders, but it's a great way to do a fast dump of everything of all magnitude into a place where you can review it later when you have more time to really think about the system that you're trying to support in ClickUp.
Yeah, that's a great point, Daniel. And yeah, and I think the reminder feature is a great one. And then also the notepad feature is a great one of being able to just jot down a note, and then later you can turn it into a task and choose where in ClickUp it goes. And I'm gonna, on Thursday, I'm planning on going through like various scenarios of like, this is how we would use ClickUp and how we would add tasks into ClickUp from a work plan meeting. And this is how you might do it if you got an email request. And this is how you might do it if you were just having a random like hallway conversation with someone. So we'll look at some kind of, hopefully some more like tangible examples of how you really will use ClickUp.
It's almost like I'd like to see, here's a half an hour in the day of Hallie, where we kind of follow sort of a list of things that you do, so it gives us an idea of how a potential workflow could proceed.
Yeah, and hopefully, if it turns out that we feel if by the end of the day on Thursday, we feel like maybe we need another hour or so as a team to look at things in more depth, we can talk about that on Thursday too. And so speaking of that, I know we have 3 minutes. I just wanted to talk about kind of what the next steps look like. So again, and I will look here. So on Thursday, I've been talking about, we'll have this other hour-long meeting. We'll talk about more some like real-world examples of how we might use it as a team. And then basically the plan right now is that you, on your first day, you'll come in, there's a series of things you'll do. You'll read this document. It's going to talk about what you can do on your first day. They'll talk about what we expect on our first couple of weeks using ClickUp. And then the first month using ClickUp. So we, as I mentioned, this team of 6 power users will, everyone is assigned to a power user. I'll send this, on Thursday, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. But basically, oh, I think I just lost my train of thought. Over the first couple of months, so in March and April, we're planning on having 3 kind of office hours for ClickUp every week. And so you're not required to attend all of them. It's highly suggested that you attend at least some of them. I would suggest at least maybe 2 a month. And you don't have to go to so these office hours are each going to be hosted by a different power user. You don't have to go to if you're assigned to, for example, Tuesday as a power user, you don't have to go to Tuesday's office hours. You can go to any of the ones that fits your schedule. And I'll release that schedule later this week after Thursday. So you can show up and ask questions. If it seems like there are a lot of questions that are like the same questions getting asked, at that point, maybe we'll either, if it's something that can be answered, it's just maybe a rollout of FAQs, we'll do that. And then, or if it's something that it seems like, maybe we actually need another all staff training, I'll schedule that for maybe later in March or in April or whenever it seems like we need it. So that's kind of how it'll work over the next few months. So you do have these resources. There's also the bottom left-hand corner here in ClickUp, this help center with a question mark. They have all sorts of online videos, documentation, webinars, like everything you could possibly need of like, how do I do X, Y, Z? They have great tutorials on how to do it that are written, there are videos as well. So between power users and this documentation, I feel like you'll be able to pick up on things. And I think y'all brought up some great points about making sure we have the best practices and like standards in place for how we use it as an organization. I think that will come out of the questions that come up over the next couple of months. Okay, this was the end of this meeting. Do y'all have any last minute questions?
Hip hip hooray for Hallie. Hip hip.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much. I know that was a lot of information, and I will just say it feels like a lot. I know when I first started looking at ClickUp, it felt overwhelming. But after I used it for about a day or two, it just clicked, and it goes from feeling like a lot to just, oh, I get it. So that's not to say that it won't be a transition. I know it's going to be a transition for us, but hopefully I think it's going to help us more than it's going to, bog us down. So just thanks in advance for your patience as we roll this out. And I think it's really going to be great for us as a team.
Okay, I have one last question. When do we get to actually start using it?
Yeah, so Thursday after this training, I will invite you all to ClickUp. After I do that, I have already kind of built out a private space for everyone. So I'll assign you the space, I'll leave the space, and that's where you can start playing around. There's gonna be a list, a kind of quick start list of tasks that you can play with that tells you like different features that you can try out in ClickUp to kind of get you, let you do some kind of hands-on things in ClickUp in a safe space. So Thursday is the goal. It could end up being, Zoe, that we can't get it all together until Friday, but by the end of this week, you'll have access to it. Any other questions, y'all?
Awesome work, Hallie. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, all of you. And a big thank you to the power users who have helped me figure out this process and make sure that we're all, that we all feel supported. So thank you. Oh, and then last but not least, we're gonna upload this to Vimeo or YouTube, and then I'll share a link with everyone and all staff so that you can refer back to this meeting, and for people who weren't able to make it, they'll have access to it as well. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hallie. Good job.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.